and welcome to Novel Ideas, a podcast where we talk with political pros about developing a new playbook for democratic media. I love to talk with our industry's best and brightest. We've got two great folks lined up to talk with us today about the new strategies we need to use to win, because we all know there's a lot of work we need to do to win the future, and we can't do it with the playbooks of the past. I'm your host. I'm Rachel Campbell. I'm CEO at Novel Messaging and almost 20-year industry veteran of working with politics and digital media. And I really love turning hot takes into action. So that's what we're here to do today. Today we're joined by two of the best. We've got Josh Cook and Stuart Perelmuter from Good Influence. Stuart founded Good Influence in 2020. Good Influence is a creator shop that helps values aligned campaigns, causes, foundations, advocacy organizations partner with influencers and content creators. I've gotten the pleasure to work with them a little bit and can verify that they're great to work with. So Stuart founded it in 2020 when it was certainly a novel idea to engage content creators in program. We're also joined by Josh Cook, who is president at Good Influence. Prior to joining the team at Good Influence, Josh was at Berlin Rosen, where he helped a lot of Democratic campaigns, foundations, and values-driven organizations develop digital engagement programs. And now they're here with us to chat. So welcome, guys. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Um, we like to start a little bit with learning a little bit more about you and sort of there's a lot of things you could be doing. You're both smart, talented, have great careers that you've built in this space. So why are you a Democrat and what brings you to this work? What keeps you in it? What keeps you in the fight? Why are you here? Josh, you get to go first.
No, I was gonna make Stuart go first. No, I'm making Stuart
Alphabetical.
go first. I'm calling Trump. Yeah,
Great.
we start with S.
You can call Trump. I think it's a compulsion, a compulsive aversion to injustice is really.
Mm.
I just get so angry about injustice, and there is no shortage of injustice in the world right now, and I think that a lot of it is driven by the Republican Party and by the people behind the Republican Party and the imbalances that they've created. And it's just, I mean, it really, people say, well, you could be doing anything and this is what you decide to do. And I'm like, could I though? Like I needed an outlet for my rage. And as far as being a Democrat, there are really only two viable alternatives, and sometimes I love Democratic Party, and sometimes I'm very frustrated with the Democratic Party. But at the end of the day, it is our best vehicle toward correcting these injustices, and so I want to make it as effective as I can.
Amen. That's a word. All right, your turn, Josh.
This is why I let Stuart go first. Um, first of all, I vote on the Working Families Party line in New York. So
Okay.
I show up to all the Democratic events,
I'm sorry
but
for
I
labeling
vote for a
you.
WFP.
Thank you for correctly identifying.
I don't know what Stuart's alternatives were, but in New York at least, that's how I
In
roll.
Kentucky, we have fewer choices. Yeah.
Well, we can start the Working Families Party of Kentucky if it doesn't exist. Let's go. No, I mean everything Stuart said. I think about campaign work from when I first like was a field organizing intern, what is now actually a really long time ago, and just being immediately addicted to understanding how this actually did contribute to winning and how it felt like you could really like um, give a little, but know that it actually added up to something. And it
Hmm.
was really hard after that to do any other type of work where you couldn't see how your contribution added up to part of the actual ultimate goal. It's also nice to sort of work in a space where it might take 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, but like there are tangible things either on the issue side or the electoral side that you're working for, from like a fight for 15, like that's a very tangible goal, to an election on a set date where you win or you lose. So you have to do everything for that. To me, like that's everything. And I like being able to wake up and know that whatever we're doing in some way is helping on something as clear as that. And then on the Democratic side, I mean, I don't want to overexpose us, but Stuart and I, among other mutual things, are like good liberal Jewish boys from Kentucky. So there's like a little bit of like social justice and social activism built into, I think, our mutual upbringing and families that goes back a long, long time, or 5,000 years. And I don't see anything that connects to that on the other side, and I don't expect to, but this side has a lot of it, so I'm here for it.
I am so curious to hear more about the good liberal Jewish boy community in Kentucky. What an identity.
It's
We're
bigger
a
than you might think.
thriving subset.
I
Thriving.
do
Of
assume
course
you
they
you
are.
think it's 2, so yeah, it's much bigger.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so part of the reason we're here is because there's a lot of conversation and a lot of hand wringing right now about all the things the Democratic Party is getting wrong, things that we need to be doing better, ways we need to be innovating. And I think of you both as people on the forefront of that. And so I realize there's probably a laundry list of things you could name, but I wanted to ask you all to kind of identify one big problem or one area that you're really focused on or that's keeping you up at night of something that you think Democrats need to pay more attention to or do better to win.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Josh and I have spent an awful lot of time in 2025 and the last few months of 2024 focused on one specific issue, which is at a time where every week that goes by, more and more Americans are getting their news and information not from traditional legacy media outlets, but from social media and specifically content creators. How do we get to the point where we are providing the supports and infrastructure to the people who are delivering that news and who are our best messengers by far in most cases, year round. We really spent in 2024. If you were to just take a snapshot of September and October, you'd think that this was a party and a movement that really prioritized alternative voices or new media voices, content creators. And if you were to take just 1 month back into August, and God forbid into the spring and first quarter of last year, it would look a lot like it did in 2020 or 2016, where it was that just wasn't the focus. And so, yes, they need focus, but this is a large community that needs support all year round.
Yeah. Okay. So there's been a lot of discussion, and I have been an avid reader of like comparing the infrastructure and the support that has been provided to content creators from the right. So, just for folks who aren't as close to this and with maybe the right as a comparison or a point of illustration, can you like talk to me like I'm five? What does infrastructure for creators mean? Like, what does it look like? What could it be if we did it right? Just like unpack it for me a little bit.
Well, I guess I would almost take it one step farther back, like just out of politics for a second, because there's advantages and differences about the right that like they're their own crazy world for a number of reasons, and probably like do a college seminar at this point, just off the think pieces. But if you think about it though from a lens of people are getting their information, where are they getting that information
Right.
from? Um, Now we're saying it's content creators because in some way we all pick up our phone or get on our computer basically to start the day, and we are listening, reading, or watching people who are telling us what's going on in the world.
Hmm.
Um, the idea of listening, reading, and watching to get information is not a new thing. It
Hmm.
was cable, it was newspapers, it was radio. All of those have now moved to an alternative to those more traditional places. But in those more traditional starting points, newspapers, cable, TV, and broadcast, and radio, um, there's real structure built around them. So if you go and
Hmm.
work at a news radio station, you have an editor, you have like clear distribution. There's like that crazy tower thing that's how everyone hears you, right? You have a producer. There's a lot of like work that goes into it, and an ad sales team, right? Like that is a radio station. That's
And
like if you
and a
watch
paycheck.
Frasier,
They get a
right, right.
paycheck.
Right, like the core cast of the Frasier KCL, radio station was a sales guy, a general manager, an editor, and a producer, and the host. Here, if we move that over on the podcast side, this is a top-notch program with real production
Mhm.
value,
Thank you.
right? But I know plenty of folks in the podcast space. It's just them and a microphone, sometimes not even a microphone, and then they're just like tossing it up into the world. So you're missing the production support, you're missing the advertising support, you're missing the distribution assistance. And so what you're left with is just a person and a microphone.
Right.
So that's not enough. And then if you take that same idea to social media and TikTok, the good thing is that the barrier to entry, if you want to be someone who's telling someone and other people why they should care about an issue, why they should follow this piece of news going on in the world, anyone can start doing it. That's great. We think
Mhm.
that's fantastic. The problem is that the sustainability comes from structure over time. And for our part of it, which is trying to tell truth in the world, there's less brand deals to be had. There's less of the infrastructure that's built on the corporate brand selling product side. So if you want to be a podcaster who's talking about, I don't know, just physical fitness. Like there's products to sell with that. But if you're talking about the news, 60 Minutes sells all their ads not because people want to advertise on news because their audience is of a certain age. So it's a great place to put ads for pharmaceuticals. Like we don't have a one-to-one like that, and there's no infrastructure, even if we did, to connect it. So it's the infrastructure that is missing that is the problem. And I don't think it's
Mhm.
a left and a right thing. I think the right found a solution to it first,
Mm.
but I think our path forward is less their path and more just we have to solve that problem.
Yeah, and tied up the reason I was, like, joking about the paycheck thing is because I think at first blush, when a lot of people hear about paid engagement with content creators, they feel a little bit, like, grossed out, like it's pay to play or whatever, but I think when you understand it in this bigger economic and infrastructure context, you know, it's also pay to play for a newspaper, but that reporter who's covering you, you're not paying them to cover you, but the ad sales and the subscriptions to that newspaper pays their salary so they can cover you, and that's the model. That doesn't exist when it's a person and a microphone, and so,
Mm,
there's like a sense of the finances that you have to sort of have in order to understand how to approach it. And I think that's like I don't know. Do you guys find that that's a learning hurdle, or how can I talk about this better and getting people to understand that we're not like paying to play, we're sustaining independent media.
Jesse Waters gets paid a lot of money by a very right-wing organization to say heinous right-wing things every single day. And nobody questions or really cares if he believes it outside of his mom, who's, I think, very upset about it, understandably so.
I hope so.
Um, she is. Uh,
Do you know
you
Jesse
know,
Waters' mom?
I think she's like very openly not pleased with him being
Oh,
kind of a
sorry.
bad
I'll Google
human
this
being.
later.
Are her and Pete
Um,
Hegseth's mom in a support group?
they should.
Oh my
I-
God, what a
If
great idea.
if they are, we can read all about it next week in Pete Hegseth's Signal Chat.
Yeah.
Um, I, oh, yeah. So we pay people in the media. We pay people who are good at talking about the things that need to be said. Um, only in social media, only with content creators right now, do we question whether they mean it, whether they should get paid. And of course they should get paid. They're delivering on something very, very important. So I think there's no other in any other field we wouldn't even question it right now. And it could influence. We have a really clear um, MO that we lay out with the creators every time is that we say we're never going to ask you to say anything for free. This is work. That's why we're here. But we never want you to say anything for us that you wouldn't say for free. It has to be authentic. That's the other thing on social media. If if you're bullshitting people, your audience knows pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I wanna come back to sort of unpacking the problem of lack of infrastructure, but I just also wanna, like, push on that for just a second because there was also a lot of discourse, after the cycle about, or at least in professional spaces, about Democrats, even when they did scratch the surface and dip toes into the creator waters, we were still often bringing almost like a paid media perspective to how we engage with creators and wanting them to, like, say exactly the poll tested scripts that we want them to say, and I think there was, like, a learning curve for some folks on that doesn't work the way you think it's gonna work because of this authenticity piece, because creators, the successful ones are there because they understand their audiences and how to communicate better than we do, and there's a certain amount of, like, I feel like creator work is almost a hybrid of paid media and earned media where you're like you still have to, like, almost, like, flack and pitch a story and work your and communicate, like, your angle and what you're trying to communicate, and you don't have or you shouldn't want prescriptive control over the end content. So that's more similar to, like, pitching a reporter and earned, but you
Hmm.
are paying and you are trying to measure outcomes and measure ROI to some degree the same way you do with paid media. So it kind of pulls in pieces of both, and I think that kinda trips folks up. I'm wondering how you guys think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the thing of right. This goes back, I think, to the problem in the sense of in an ideal world, yeah, you should like be pitching like in an ideal world, a creator should be able to wake up every day and decide what they want to talk about and do it in whatever style or format that they want. Sometimes that's hyper creative, sometimes it's very direct, like interviews, whatever. I mean, it's a wide world of content. Um, that's the same benefit that we afford to Rachel Maddow. I mean, she has to do it in the format that it is MSNBC at 4 to 8 minute blocks of time. But in between those 4 to 8 minutes, there's an ad that plays or multiple ads that play, and that monetizes her work. So she doesn't have to mix the monetization into her content. But if we said, Rachel, there's no more ads, and we're not paying you a salary anymore. You have to figure out how to monetize this to cover your own production and every other part of this, yeah, it would suddenly look a lot more like creator content because you have to mix the two. So I think, on the other side of it, we as campaign folks are all coming at this with different goals. So paid media people see an obvious value in working with certain creators. They have like the penetration with like the core voting block that you want to reach. Like if you're a media buyer, you're just buying inventory, right? To like
Mhm.
reach a certain group of people. If you're a comms person, similar idea. You want to pitch someone who you think is then reaching the audience you want and can sort of tell and persuade through their narrative storytelling. The problem is that the answer to all of those goals is the same person on the other end in the content creator. So it just leads to us trying to shove a lot of strategies at them.
Mm.
And in the meantime, they don't have a way outside of working with organizations right now to really monetize deeply outside of a few platforms. I mean, the answer to all of this, like we could solve this problem tomorrow if the platforms paid creators fairly across the board.
Ah.
YouTube, if you have momentum and do this correctly, like there's lots of revenue to be made there. And there's plenty of examples of folks who have built fairly, strong and consistent output with high production value and whatever else they need through that. I mean, there was a headline I saw the other, Mr. Beast invests $1 million plus per video in production. That's because he's monetizing it enough to do it. That's great. He can sell products in a way that news can't, I don't think. Um, but if the platforms, did their fair share, they're hosting this, they're monetizing off it, but they're not sharing that back out. So it's the reason that Meta is $1 trillion company. It's their ad sales, but the ad sales aren't going back to the people who are causing us to pick up our devices and stare at their ad platforms for hours on end.
Mhm.
So that's the flaw here. If you're on TV, they sell ads. There's a medium, and that helps pay the talent. If you're working for a newspaper, they're still able to squeeze out some monetization from a few places, less so than before, but they used to have classifieds. Like, that makes sense. Then you're a creator, you have none of that. So we've moved our way that we're spreading information in the world to places that are extremely biased against the people creating the content. And so that's a central problem we can't, I don't think, fix, just to be blunt, in my opinion. But I do think there's opportunities as a movement to ensure that our messengers are supported in a number of ways, that accept these challenges and don't say they'll figure out sustainability some other way, or
Mhm.
they'll find a brand deal. There's just not enough new startups sponsoring things to consumers to cover the entire left,
Right.
as far
Right.
as I could tell.
Well, okay, so there's a lot of problems that we're identifying here, but to kind of take where you were headed and follow that thread, the other thing we like to ask folks is, okay, so if we're identifying a problem of lack of infrastructure, lack of sustained support for the creators that are the primary source of information for people that we need to reach and that sustain our movement, what's our novel solution? Like, what are some ideas? And I know you guys have been doing a lot and really building some really innovative, exciting new projects to try and solve some of this. So, talk to us about like what the solutions look like.
Josh and I are tackling this from a couple of standpoints. Is
Tackling standpoints.
We're tackling standpoints, wily little creatures. You gotta be fast. You gotta be nimble. Um, so in November, shortly after the election, we worked with a handful of creators who stood up a nonprofit called Chorus, which is really building that infrastructure that we're talking about. The creators really are the experts. And to your point earlier about what do the campaigns do is it is I used to work on campaigns. I was a comms guy, worked on Capitol Hill. You want everything as tightly scripted and in your control as possible. And that is so antithetical to working with content creators on social media, that you have got to trust that these people are very good at reaching their audience when they are able to speak in their own voice, when they're able to be authentic. And so if you can find people who care about your issues, who care about the campaign, then it's a good match with freedom. Um, and so Chorus, the idea is we'll stand up that infrastructure so the creators do have uh, money they can count on, that they are trained up on the monetizable platforms and the non-monetizable platforms, so that they can reach as many people with their voices. So that we had a real problem last cycle where on the right they were going out, organizations on the right were going out, they were courting cultural content creators, and they were saying, they were supporting them with amplification. Sometimes they were supporting them financially, and they were letting them do their thing. And I said, when you're with us, we'll amplify you, and that's fine. And on our side, we did not court that. We did not. Uh, I mean, honestly, we really we did the opposite. We put people through purity tests, and so we tended to push people away that could have been really um, good voices for us, who want to be good voices for us, who really, really hate Donald Trump and the MAGA movement.
Mhm.
So it's identifying ways that we can grow our numbers in terms of the really strong voices, but also into avenues of the culture where we've been totally absent for a long time, and Republicans have made a really concerted effort to get in there. Um, Chorus is standing up a lot of that infrastructure. On the good influence side, we're working with campaigns earlier than we ever have, so that we can start to build that narrative early. We've gotten to do some of that with you. I think it's been really effective, and it's smart. It's much easier to uh, convince somebody of something before they've got their mind made up the other way.
Mhm. Mhm.
So starting early, starting with trusted voices is what empowers us to do that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think on a like really concrete level, Chorus now, there's a council of creators who are helping sort of inform the vision. There's a team of folks who are really helping execute the programming. Stuart and I were there early days to really help get it off the ground, and we're really excited for them to like thrive. It has an independent board, and we're basically going back to our day jobs over at Good Influence. But Chorus, the three things like that they're trying to do right now to sort of take a step again. I like this, like the platforms aren't there for you. Campaigns, I mean, just there aren't very many right now, so we shouldn't bank on that being our all-in strategy. And again, when there's more brand deals, I look forward to seeing them. And shout out to the brands, honestly, that are supporting these types of creators because they do exist. There's some folks and companies that are seizing this moment really smartly, and I think creators really appreciate it. Like if you ask folks, who's supporting you, they'll very happily and proudly tell you those organizations. But Chorus is there, trying to basically, I think, approach this more like PBS than MTV. On the
Mm.
other side, you can sell doomsday prep kits and gold bars as part of your content because the audience is there for it. And I don't know what the left's equivalent is. And if someone figures it out, please tell me and call me. But so they get to do programming with a traditional advertising model that makes a lot more sense than our side does across these platforms. They have convenings and conferences where they can monetize. Like there's much more infrastructure on the culture. So hopefully we build out more of that on the left, and that's part of it. But in the meantime, course is going to try to support creators who are on the right track, need some help on the production and the sort of technical side to scale to the places they've yet to go. Um, on the financial side, it's a little, there's definitely that piece of it, but not to dictate content, to just like make sure that they have the time to be able to dedicate their energy to their craft versus trying to just find another pay per post opportunity, which distracts them from, hopefully the intentional time they can put into building out their audience more. I talked to a creator who just invested in a videographer. It costs them money, but they know that the results every time they work with them, more views, more engagement, it's worth the investment. Like Chorus would like to help make those opportunities easier to access. Um, and it's not about Chorus thriving. It's about getting creators to a place where they can be more self-sufficient. They can advocate better for themselves. They can show their worth to organizations in a deeper way. So Chorus uh, is really trying to be that breeding ground to make the individual content creators sustainable in the long term through a number of support tactics. And then a good influence. We run an agency that tries to find opportunities. We only work with values aligned organizations. We don't sell products. And then we work with creators who are also values aligned to try to connect those bridges. But one of our biggest goals is like, let's try to find a few new ways to support creators every year. And so we've built, credit to Stuart and our engineering team, like we've built multiple tools and technologies that open up some part of this ecosystem to organizations who are like confused on how to access it. So we have solutions and tools for the comms director who has no budget because comms directors don't have budgets. They don't get to do paid media. That's the paid media people. But they do want to disseminate information to these folks. So we built tools to make it easier to share that out in a way that doesn't annoy creators, um, but is helpful. So they can find a way to support creators with their meager comms budgets. Still
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
We built tools to help connect the audiences the creators are building and tie them back to organizing campaigns, which is something that is a win for everyone because it can really show the impact of a single creator to move votes and change hearts and minds. And then we've built out whole platforms that are just helping creators get their audience to a place where they can sign on to take action with an organization, which is a very traditional and old school way that organizations connect their work day to day. They run email programs, they do direct outreach to their supporters, but it's hard for folks to move from organic content to those places. And so we've tried to make that easier. But in each one of those examples, we get to pay creators in a way that isn't just paying them for a piece of content, which means that we are hopefully trying to create two, three, four, five new revenue streams that are all advocacy and issue first, but also can help a creator find new streams to support their livelihood doing this work. So it's really just it's infrastructure and it's support between those two sides.
Yeah, I think when this really hit for me, sort of what infrastructure could look like if we invested in it, and also opened my eyes to how far behind we are from the right on this. I worked with the creator program at the convention. That's one of the first places that we got to meet. And uh, I was spending some time with Brian Tyler Cohen, who's one of the left's biggest creators and one of the creators leading chorus, and one of the creators that I know you guys go way back with. And I was just helping Brian like take him to a studio so he could do an interview. And he'd mentioned that the producer who was with him was like new to him within the last few months. And prior to that, he had been doing all of his own scripting, shooting, editing, publishing, community management, producing, like every piece of the work he'd done himself. And then right after convention, when like everyone was talking about creators, I read some stuff about how, these creators on the right have been equipped with studios, full production teams, monthly content promotion budgets to boost their clips to a wider audience. And like the scale, like Brian's over here hacking away by himself with maybe a newly added like part-time fractional producer. And we're up against a real behemoth of media infrastructure. Um, why do we do that? Like, where's the guy? Is it the party? Do we need funders to step up? Like, how do we catch up?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Uh, but I also think that not just why do we do that, what we are 10 years behind. It's
Yeah.
not like their advantage in this started before the majority of people were getting most of their news on social media. And the reason is because it's really hard. It's harder to spread lies and alternative facts in legacy media. And
The
it's really hard to do it with honest content creators. And
Mhm.
so they had no choice but to stand up their own media
You're
ecosystem.
right. Yeah.
And they've honestly been doing it for 60 years since Goldwater got his butt kicked by Lyndon Johnson. They were like, we got to figure something out here. And boy, did they.
Yeah.
And so by the time social media came along, they'd already had half a century of figuring out how to turn bullshit into something that resembled reality. And the more that content creators took caught on, the more that they had success spreading their lies. When Donald Trump came on the scene and turned disinformation distribution into just I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. They were all in. It's super effective. And there is this, we get this question all the time of like the right pushes lies and they is that something that we need to do? The answer is no, but it's not they don't catch on just because they're lies.
Right.
They catch on because of the tactics that they're using, the strategies that they're using to push them. And there's nothing disingenuous about those strategies. It's just they're tainted by the people who utilize them. And so I think we did stay away. We got, you know, Obama did very well. Uh, Hillary won the popular vote. We then won all the off years leading up to 2020, which we obviously won. I think there was a false sense that we were doing the right things as the right was continually innovating.
Mhm.
And so there was a broad realization after this election that that wasn't the case, and I think, yes, funders need to step up. I think that there's a realization of that. The party needs to step up. I think Ken Martin understands that.
Yeah.
Um, we've gotten a lot more buy-in from both House and Senate leadership than honestly than we expected. There, there's nothing like rock bottom to make you really say, let's reassess how we do things. Um, and yeah, and like I said, we are working with campaigns really early now. So I think there is a broad realization that this needs to change and a pretty good embrace of the work. But we are building from the ground up right now, and we are at a decade disadvantage. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think to your example of just like the other side has this like studio space. It exists. I mean, I just think, if you think about what happened, just use this as a prompt for a brainstorm with whatever organization you're with or whatever group of people you're with. You're like, we clearly aren't reaching, people in the ways we want to. If I uh, told you that the leaders of the democratic movement, well, hopefully this doesn't happen because I mean in this environment this is a disaster. But if there was a day where every social media platform decided that your biggest leaders are not allowed on your platforms anymore, which is what happened after 2020 and our fun insurrection for Donald Trump, what do you do? And they answered the question.
Mm.
They went to new platforms, they built an environment, and in those environments, suddenly you got to do a lot more to like bring the people around. And like, sure enough, like there's a lot more production value going into stuff. A lot more voices are being embraced. They're bringing in more folks. There's an audience built in. And then those starts to trickle out into the rest of mainstream culture where they weren't banned, or, they could sort of cross translate it. So it started with the farthest right folks, and then they did a really good job bringing in more people to those environments because they built audience, and then the audience helped bring people back into the mainstream. And so suddenly we have like bro culture where it's, some bros who might not have been toxic, but they went to where some of their audience ended up being, and they brought along some toxic bros, and suddenly we've got a problem. So I just don't think, God willing, we're going to be in that same situation to have to solve that problem. But I do think, to Stuart's point, we need people to understand that the structures and the support that have gone into traditional media, which is a big investment, uh, in some way need to be carried over in some ways to this space. And I think the tough part, if I were a funder or someone in a real position to move dollars and sort of uh, movement structure, I don't think there's one answer to this problem
Mhm.
that solves it. And I think the reality is we have to keep investing in some really good ideas and some experiments for the next few years. And when we have a moment to rally consensus and at scale nationally, whenever that moment is, could be 27, 28, could be sooner. Who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully, we've done enough and we've helped scale enough experiments that one, two, or six of them really thrive and fill that void that's being created elsewhere. But I think it's a really reckless idea to say we need to test everything in micro doses until we figure out something and then over invest in that one thing. Because I think you could make a case some of that happened in 2020, and I think you can make a case that, to Stuart's point, we just kept running it back on some stuff that tested well in the past, and it seemed like it worked again. Um, to me, we're in the Wild West, and so everyone's ideas should flourish, and we want to be supportive of as many of those folks as we can.
This is a question that's not at all specific to creators, but it's very I find this is what I'm honestly butting up against because I totally agree. This moment requires innovation and experimentation, and the problem with that is there's inherent risk, and there's no way to de-risk innovation or de-risk experimentation. It's inherent. You could spend money and not get a return. Like, that could happen, and this is, like, the biggest problem I find even when I'm talking to really smart folks who will agree on the problem definition, will agree that we need to reach creators, or engage creators as part of the solution, and, like, are intellectually, they're all bought in. I don't even know if this makes sense, but I just keep hitting up against this, like, emotional wall that I can't get over with a lot of folks that I think genuinely wanna do this, but it feels so scary because it's new and they don't we can't guarantee results in the same way that I don't think was ever true, but they've been falsely led to believe was true in other
Right.
areas of investment, and I just am wondering, this is not about creators, this is like a naughty human nature question, but just like, does that resonate with you? Like, how
Yeah,
do you
why invest in something if we don't know if it will succeed when we already know what we can invest in that won't succeed?
Right, right.
I mean, like I think people have come a long way on these concepts in a fairly short amount of time. I joined up with Stuart heading into 2024 and the team here. And I spent months just going and catching up with people who knew me from past lives, doing, other parts of this space, from advertising to digital organizing to email to just we knocking on doors together, and just sort of talking about what we were doing. And some folks were like, I get it, I definitely can't use it in my place, but I get it. And other people are like, I don't get it. And other people are like, can we try something? And we said yes to pretty much everyone who wanted to try something. And I think we have a vision here at Good Influence of, we want to try to find ways to make what
Mhm.
we're talking about accessible to small organizations, small candidates, as much as big organizations. I think there's honestly more solutions for the top than the bottom, but if this is going to work, we got to find them all.
Yeah.
And so the victories of last year to me were that we were able to get a lot of people to bring us the thing they were trying to solve for and give them a solution. And most of the time, the solution has some net positive effect, or a lot of net positive effect in some cases, um, to the point where now this year, um, outside of a few exceptions, a lot of the work that we're doing, and that's kept us really busy, are from people we worked with for the first time last year who have now built some part of this into their strategy this year. And I
Great.
think that's the reality of, we just need to keep getting people to feel comfortable trying a little bit, because then they come back and try a lot. And so I don't think there's a way to move hearts and minds beyond showing results
Yeah.
at some point. Like, we can talk about a lot of things, and we've all hung out at convenings where we're all talking about a lot of ideas.
I'm pretty good at
But
talking.
they're a lot more fun when it's the convening where everyone gets to share the results of the thing they did,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then everyone's like, "Oh my god, I got to go tell five people about that." I
Yeah.
don't think as many people come out of the just talking about the idea
Yeah.
and go, "Oh my god, I got to tell five people about the idea." You want to tell people about results,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so we we are unfortunately in a place where, to Stuart's point, we're behind. Where we really would be great if we could fast track all of this, but I just think human nature is a thing where we just got to keep, like, getting people forward, and hopefully then when the oh shit moments come around, we've helped lower the barrier to entry for enough people to get it there.
That's a good
I
idea.
might be too patient, but
No, I mean, what else can you do, right? You can't change people.
yeah.
Um, okay. Thanks. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna make you indulge me now in our final segment of the show, which is we're going to the hotline
Give us a call at the Hot Takes Hotline.
where we invite listeners and folks in the industry to call in and share their hot takes. What's bugging you, your frustration of the day. You just need a safe place to anonymously rant. Give us a call. 1-844-4-HOT-TAKES is the number. So let's go to the line. We've got a message that we wanted to discuss with you guys.
Hey, I'm just calling because I am wondering if anyone else feels this way. Don't we have our best people just like on the bench right now? Like, isn't are we just like are we hiding our best talent, our best communicators? How do we get those people to the forefront? How do we get those people into the party leadership? Anybody else feel like that? I feel like that.
I thought this would be an interesting one to get your take on. What do you guys think about our best communicators and how to bring them more forward?
When you don't have the White House, you have, you know, 200 and
Yep.
something, near 300 leaders,
Mhm.
and also then no leader. And it is, I think the Democrats have uh, had a problem with seniority for a really long time, leaning too heavily on it. I think, the master of the Senate became the Senate Democratic leader in his first term. I don't know how he did that, by the way, but Robert Caro can give me a call about LDJ. Um,
Gotta be such a long
uh,
phone call.
A
it would
whole
come in
other
many
podcast.
installments.
It's
Yes.
an 80-hour phone call.
I would enjoy it so much. Yeah, so I do think that Josh and I have been on the Hill a decent amount this year, and there is a a, uh, a an acknowledgement that we have a lot of new, young, strong voice, and honestly, not all young. Um, there are some older people who I'm like, why are we not seeing her more?
Yeah.
She's great. And so I think the beauty of doing more social media is that like you don't have to make like leadership doesn't have to make those judgment calls
Mhm.
anymore. The more we let things play out organically, the more it's going to be indisputable. Like nobody has to make a case for Jasmine Crockett. It's pretty clear that her voice resonates. Um, and so I think as more people are putting themselves out there, it's going to be uh, more apparent. And I think it's just then it becomes a question of are there people who are going to say, maybe I need to spend more time just talking to my district? I'm not resonating on that level. That's a much harder thing. So getting people off the bench is is one thing, and I think honestly, I think we're seeing more and more of it. I think a lot of people have been introduced to new members of Congress and new governors and mayors this year. Clearing the floor is a whole other thing, but uh, you know,
Yeah.
speak up.
It's
What
also
about those
kind
things?
of
Yeah.
what we were talking about earlier where a good communicator in a leader used to be someone who was disciplined, who could consistently deliver something on message, and, like, to be
Mm,
fair, to be a good
it's a
communicator in this
whole new
environment,
art now.
different skill
I want
set.
to primary those people just on concept. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm not primarying anyone, to be clear. But
On the
no, you're
Working Family
Uh,
completely
Parties
right.
line, or Working
yeah,
Families Party line.
Vote working families.
yeah.
Well,
You're totally
can I
right.
give a hot take
Yeah.
to the hot take question,
Yeah,
Colin?
yeah.
I'm gonna start calling that number, by the way.
Yeah.
And everyone should. I'm a big Instagram person because when I look at social media, it's usually in the evening, and TikTok hurts my eyes at night is what I've learned. Although I watch a lot of the live streams on TikTok. That's a whole other podcast. Um, but I have a saved list on my Instagram I think it's something called electeds who get it,
Mhm.
and it's clips that will just like pop up in my feed, or someone will tell me about someone and I'll just like go down a rabbit hole. So it's like mayors and folks in random places where someone has just mentions them to me, and they're just doing a really good job communicating and being really direct about results and issues. And I try to like go find their campaign page and just like donate like $20 and just like I'm in. Because I think we're also, to Stuart's point, like we've done a really great job winning a lot of the best cycles in some places where we've got a lot of great folks who've been around, but there is like I think a new generation that's coming forward, and so amplify anyone you like, I
Mm.
think is really the thing I don't say. But my hot take part is I'd like to do uh, a version of what Bernie and AOC have been doing, which is amazing. And I really want to take my kids to one. But I want to do it with like people you might not have heard of. Like I
Yeah.
want the next tier.
Yeah.
Like I want a traveling like basketball team of electeds who just fire up a crowd really awesome. When the Iraq War was happening, I was younger and still living in Kentucky. And I remember going to an auditorium at not the biggest college in town and just hearing a bunch of people basically like speak out against the war. And one of them was a member of Congress I had never heard of.
Mhm.
And but then I did, and
Mhm.
they like no one in the room had any clue who they were because it's not a lot of internet going on.
No.
Um, and by the end of it, they're like, "Oh my God, I'll do whatever for that person." It ended up being Dennis Kucinich, who's had a weird
Oh
history
my
arc, and
God,
like
that
I
was
just want
gonna
to
be
be
my
clear.
guess. I
Were
was
you
gonna guess
there?
Dennis Kucinich. That's
Um,
so funny.
uh, yeah, I'm not endorsing Dennis Kucinich of
What a vibe.
2025, but 2003, four, dude, like crushed. I mean, he was like tiny. He walked up there, and I'm like, who? and the guy just like tore the place to the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah.
I want more events like that where you can just bring people together. And like I'm not endorsing anyone in the New York City mayoral, but I think what you're seeing folks like Zoran do, online is amazing, and it's just very good communication, meeting people where they are, not being afraid to be out there every single day in creative ways, and just saying yes and leaning in. And I think a lot of folks actually running in that mayor's race are worth studying because they're all doing really innovative stuff. Brad Lander too, don't study under Cuomo, or studying for being a
What not to
jackass.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. But um, there's things happening with electeds at the local level where there's nothing holding them back. And so if you find one, share them widely,
Mhm.
and hopefully like those are the types of things that hopefully trickle up into congressional races, trickle up into statewide.
Mhm.
And I think it's already happening, but it's for sure happening. So to the caller, yeah, we probably are, but I just think there's an entire bench that we don't even know about behind the bench,
Right,
and
right.
we should like start getting those people out there. Like I want the convention in 2028 to just be full of people that today we couldn't guess. Like that to me is
Yeah.
super exciting.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, there is the more I've like gotten to know who is the 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 members of Congress, the term one and two people especially, like our bench is kind of stacked.
Yeah.
I love these guys. They're
Yeah.
good messengers. And
No,
but
yeah,
your
they
point
definitely
is
need
right,
more
is like
minutes. Yeah.
you can't have talking points anymore.
Yeah.
Um, Brian Cohen talks about the difference between sound bites and talking points.
Mhm.
Keep it short, but don't memorize a list of things.
Which was like the opposite of what we used to try and
It was totally the opposite. Yep. Yep.
so it's
We're in a
tough,
different
and we
world.
all have to grow and learn, and change is hard, but I think isn't that kind of the gist of what Jasmine Crockett said? Wasn't she on Kimmel the other night or something? Did I see that? Or was
I
it
don't watch enough
Colbert?
traditional television, but I believe you.
I can't I'm getting the host wrong, but I saw a clip on my Instagram when I was late night scrolling. Josh, how are
Sure.
we not Instagram friends? Like, we're gonna fix that.
Oh,
Oh my
Um,
God.
that's my platform of choice by far. Um, but yeah, I saw a clip of her, and I forget which late night host she was with, but she was saying, um, just speak authentically. Like, they asked her for advice on what she would say to other members, and she was like, "Don't worry about what you're saying as much as just, tell the truth and speak authentically." And that is I know that makes, like, every comms and, every person of my age or older's heart clench to think of that being given as advice, but it is, like, it's just I think the rawness outweighs the substance at this point.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think we're creating new benches in real time, which is exciting. I think being in the wilderness gives these opportunities. Yeah.
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 Great call. Great call.
Okay. Well, thanks you guys for being here. Thanks for doing this and chatting. It's really great to have you. And for everyone who made it this far, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time with more novel ideas.